So basically what happens, right? Let's start doing a program rather than theory, so we can bring theory while discussing. Excuse me. They created already. Okay, today's session downloaded, right? So we will do a simple, we'll write simple program like what exactly happens, right? I call it as error scenario demo. So what I will do here, I'll write simple methods too. Void method 1 what I will do here, so for the sake of accessing quickly, I'll just make this guy static. For the sake of accessing without creating an object. Okay, creating an object is not our criteria in this scenario. Just so let me run this program. What I'm just doing in the main method, I'm calling method 1 and method 2. Do you see any problem in this? I don't think so, right? You don't think so, right? So it displayed method 1 and method 2. What I will do, I will do a small modification here. I'll do method 1, method 2. Okay, here I will do method 1. Did you guys remember when you how the memory will be occupied? Two things are there, right? One is heap, another one is stack. Heap will have all the object references, all the instance variables, all the objects that you create. Stack will have all the methods that we're going to call, right? Is that true? Yep. So now what I did, all I did is I didn't change anything here. I'm just calling in method 1. Once it's done in method 1, I'm calling method 2. Once it go to method 2, I'm calling this and I'm calling method 1. Let's see what happens. Something happened, right? Let's see. So if you look at its complete file, right? Yeah. This one is going away. So let me see. I mean, you got an error, but I'm trying to show you what error we got. But this, whatever the terminal is ran, it's reached max, and then it's killed all the beginning data. Let me call this guy like this. I just remove this print statement so that I think I will get some. Hopefully. See what error you got? Exception in thread main java.lang.stack overflow error. We know that methods will load into stack, right? Try to understand what I haven't started exceptions yet. Okay, I'm just trying to show you one demo, simple demo, where I try to create the cyclic dependency, calling method 1 in method 2 calls method 1, and I'm calling here method 1. What will happen? The execution starts from here and calls method 1, so method 1 triggers. From method 1 it will go to method 2. From method 2 it will go to method 1, and method 2 method 1 method 2 it gets called, method 2 it again calls method 1, so it's cyclic dependency happening, right? So what will happen in memory, like I mentioned, right, all reference variable will be loaded in the heap and stack. Here objects will be stored, and next one is reference variables, class variables, all static variables, everything related object will be stored here. Here there will be stack. First, what happens in your method? First it calls main method, so main method, and then method 1, so its stack will be there. First method 1, so method 1 calling method 2, and method 2 calling method 1, method 1, method 1 calling method 2. So it's like keep on, the stack is keep on increasing. So there will be a limit, right? We let's say like 500 MB. So stack will run out of 500 MB, right? Because it's keep on cyclic dependency. It's not leaving. It's not taking out any of them one by one, calling each other, right? So that is the reason you got stack flow error. There is a stack overflow error. It's not exception. Okay, let's try to see, it's an error. Okay, so this is one scenario where in your day-to-day when you're writing programs, if you do like this, your application will crash, right? So basically what happens, if something goes wrong when you are writing in a day-to-day, some logic, some business logic you write, some technical logic or application logic you'll write. When you're writing application logic or business logic, if you do any mistakes, or if there are scenarios that you fall into doing a mistake, then your application will shut down, right? So let's say you entered into like Capital One account or Bank of America. It's not exactly same. Stack and buffer are different. Buffer is something you will get again subset, but if it whatever, right, if there is any fixed what you call if there is any fixed size, and if you try to if you don't clear up properly, if you don't allow GC to clean up the whatever the occupied memory, then you fall into buffer overflow error as well. Okay, so basically this is one error scenario. If you log in into Bank of America and you try to transfer, so while doing transfer, instead of entering amount, I'm just saying there are different ways to handle. Just to simply understand, there is no validations on the client side. So you entered some text instead of number. So you wrote a program assuming you are going to get a number all the time. Okay, you assumed that you're going to get the number from the user all the time, but for some reason some customer who doesn't have knowledge, and he entered some text, and in text place he entered an amount. So if you don't, so the way you wrote logic is, let's assume, that's it, okay, for the sake of explaining the scenario. So you wrote a logic such a way you always expect a number in the amount place and text in text area. So instead of number you got a text, so you expected a scan of int, let's say scan of int, and user enter text. So what will happen? So there is a mismatch happened. So this what you supposed to do when this happened? You need to tell the customer, somehow you need to understand, instead of entering number he entered the text. So once you understand that, you need to convey the customer. If you are fine-tuned your application, you can easily understand, okay, instead of number he entered something else, so you can say back only digits allowed, you need to enter only amount, right? You can display that error rather than crashing your application, like what you call instead of doing anything, and if you show some error page, some junk error page, like this kind of thing, capture this error and show onto the screen, what will happen? Customer will scared, right? Oh, I try to transfer and something is showed up, so whether my amount went in or not, whether amount is going to be deducted or not, whether I need to transfer it again or not. So somehow you need to convey some message to the user as well, right? So certain things you can handle, certain things you cannot handle, no matter what. Okay, so the things that you can handle are nothing but exceptions. The things that we can handle is nothing but exceptions. There are things which we cannot do anything, like these kind of things, stack overflow error. What will happen? Stack overflow error, what is the solution? You need to restart your application, or else go back and fix the first problem. So you creating a cyclic dependency which you suppose not to, don't do that. Then go and fix the problem. What is the solution for error? Go and fix the problem, that's it, no other option. Your application will crash, and go and fix the problem. There is another kind of errors, like stack overflow error and out of memory error. What does it mean? Like I mentioned, right, you try to access your Excel sheet. Can you repeat your question? Can you speak out your question?
In the example provided regarding this text and number, actually we can print the error line like please enter the number or please enter the text in the corresponding fields by using if and else logics, right, rather than try and catch blocks.
If and else?
Yeah.
How many you are going to write? Like how many scenarios you going to capture like that?
For the number of boxes present.
Yeah, so instead of that, what you called, if you use try catch block, let me go into that scenario. We haven't talked about it. Once we go into that, I'll explain in detail. Okay, let me go step by step.
Okay,
but I'll keep your question in mind. Okay, but you can keep what you call posting your question, don't hesitate. Okay, so what we're talking about here, yeah, stack overflow error. So in stack overflow error, another kind of scenario is like out of memory error. In out of memory error as well, you cannot do anything. like, you know, you have a 2 GB RAM, and in that you got 1 GB of JVM, and in that you got heap size of like 800 and 200 for stack. So in that 8 GB you try to read some Excel sheet outside your network. So you keep loading objects, and you are not releasing objects, and you are not releasing the connections. You keep making the calls, you know, for each call, for each row. Let's say there are 10,000 rows, and you're trying to call each row by making external connections, and you keep on creating an objects, and you are not making any of the objects eligible for garbage collection. Then what will happen? Out of memory error will occur. So what is the solution for that? Go back and fix. Okay, instead of creating multiple objects, instead of creating bunch of objects, see what is the better way to read the data from the Excel sheet in a single object. And as soon as you're done with the operations, or as soon as you play, you massaged that object, then release that object for garbage collection. So those kind of logics you need to take care. Okay, so until and unless you modify, as simple as that is, errors cannot be modified until and unless you modify, go back and fix your program, either by fixing the program, or either by increasing the program, or either by correcting your configurations. Something you need to do. Okay, you got my point. So next scenario, let me tell you, but exceptions are something you can what you call handle by yourself. So what is that? Exception is a class? Is that exception is a method? Or is it error is a class? What is an exception? So if you look at here, right, Stack Overflow error, what is this? Java.lang. In package, what will mention in the class, right? So all the errors and exceptions are different classes that has been there. Let me show you. Yeah. So it is there in the java.lang package. So Stack Overflow error and reflective operation error. So let me show you. Let me go to star error. See, these are the different errors that may occur, but only we are interested in only Java 1.8 assertion error, class circularity error. So these are the different type of errors that are already provided by Java. So what will happen is, like, let's say there are a simple way, like one is stack out overflow error, and another one is out of memory error. So if you simply say error occurred, you can't understand what kind of error happened. So Java has to smartly identify what kind of error happened, so that you can provide a corresponding solution. Okay, so if you go back here, basically what will happen when you write anything? First, JVM. What's the job of JVM? It's first, whatever you wrote in your programs in a day-to-day, it monitors all the statements. It monitors each and every statement in your program. And if an error or an exception, so it occurs, then it identifies corresponding the exception class. What does it mean? Now we got a Stack Overflow error, and we identified corresponding Stack Overflow error, right? If there is out of memory, then it will identify out of memory error. Okay, so exceptions, I'll show you what are different exceptions. So if an error or exception occurs, who identifies it? Corresponding JVM identifies. Okay, then create the object for the exception class, whatever the corresponding class object it is, object that it belongs to. It creates that corresponding object, and it throws the object. For now, just understand this typical statements, and then we'll go when we use try catch block. Okay, then once it throws that object, catch the object and terminate the program, and you can flush out the whatever the final output that is there in that object that JVM catches. Okay, so if these 6 statements we'll understand going forward. Okay, once by end of the exception classes we'll understand what exactly this line means, what exactly means throws the object, what exactly means catch the object and terminate the program. So this is the structure, basic structure of exception classes in package. What is the package? Java.lang package. So like I mentioned, each package having bunch of classes. What is Java.lang? Java.lang is a built-in package. So in built-in package we'll have a bunch of classes. So who is the superclass? Who is the superclass of all classes? Object. Then throwable. Then exception, error, class not found exception, runtime exception, error in there are thread death or something different kind of subcategories like out of memory and stack overflow and thread death kind of thing. And then exceptions are different type of exceptions. There are 2 type of exceptions. One is class not found exception, and another, there are 2 type of exceptions. One is compile time exceptions, another one is runtime exceptions. These compile time and runtime we used earlier as well, where in polymorphism concept. One is compile time polymorphism, another one is runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism is method overloading. Runtime polymorphism is method overriding, right? Because why method overriding is runtime polymorphism? Because we don't know until we create the object which object we are going to create and assigning to the corresponding reference variable, because you can assign subclass object to superclass and you can assign superclass object to superclass reference variable. Okay, same thing here. There are 2 type of exceptions. Like errors are simple, there are fixed errors, like if error happens there is no question of looking back. You need to go back and fix your program. But exception case, it's not like that. You can go back and convey the customer. Okay, you can go back and convey the customer that something happened. So you need to, if it is a user input, you can convey the user like okay, whatever you entered is wrong, we are expecting numbers here. Or else another way is, if there is something really wrong happened in the back end, like your database went down or you are not able to connect to the database to pull the data before transferring. So in those cases you can convey to the user something went wrong and we will look into it. So those kind of messages you need to convey to the customer. So those kind of things all falls into exception category. So in exceptions there are 2 types of exceptions. One is class compile time exceptions, another one is runtime exceptions. Compile time exceptions are like class not found exception, and there are bunch of exceptions. Let me show it to you quickly. Yes. See, this is the superclass for this is a Java document. So this page talks about null pointer exception. So but before talking, it shows like who is its superclass. Runtime exception is its superclass. Runtime exception superclass is exception class. Exception class superclass is throwable. Okay, so I'm going to exceptions, different type of exceptions, right? So in this, except the highlighted one, all are different type of compile time exceptions. Compile time exceptions. All are different type of compile time exceptions. Okay. Let me pick one and try to show you how it happens. Okay. When you try to compile itself, it will give you an error. Let's say which one we can pick. Timeout exception. Which one we can pick? It is like, give me 1 second, I'll just check. We can create null pointer exception. We can create return exceptions. Already bound exception. What is the best one to create? Okay, for time being, just remember, like we can what is compile time exception? Compile time exceptions are catch exceptions, caught exceptions. Compile time exceptions are caught exceptions, which we can caught at compile time itself by simply using the try catch block. By simply using the try catch block, those are all compile time exceptions. But runtime exceptions are something which will happen when you're running your program and when JVM is actively involved. So running your program, while you are running program, and let's say, like, we discussed about it, like, we have this arrays, right? We talked about arrays. Let's say when we are defining array, when we are initializing array, we must provide the size of the array. So let's say we provided size of the array is 5. So what if you try to insert 6th item, you don't see an error at compile time. The program compiles very well. It compiles very well in the sense that .class file will be created. But when you run your program, it will show index out of bound exception. Index out of bound exception. Right? So that is called, when you are running your program, that is happening, that is runtime exceptions. Those are uncaught exceptions. Uncaught exceptions we can call it. Okay. So there are exceptions has been categorized into two sections. One is compile time, another one is runtime exceptions. Let me show you simply by writing another program. What we can do here is, let's say, I'm just what I will try. What I will do is the scanner. Of course, that's what we are discussing, right? As simple as this. Exceptions are something which can be handled. Simple line. Exceptions are something which can be handled either at compile time, either at runtime. But errors are something which we cannot. What is the solution? You need to go back and fix the program and restart your program. There is no other option. Okay. So let's say I'm just trying to take the inputs from the user. Okay. I'm trying to take the inputs from the user. So I'll repeat it. So until up to here, you guys understand, right? I'm just taking two inputs, and one is into, I'm keeping it to int A, another one is in B. What I will do, int equal to okay, simple program, right? Nothing fancy there. So enter a value. So I enter 10, another value 12. I got result 0, right? So yeah, it's obviously right, like it will integer, right? So it will take that round off figure, round off number. So let me run the program again. I entered 0. What happened? Exception in thread main java.lang.arithmetic exception. So these are all different kind of exceptions that has been defined already inside Java package. When you download your JVM, when you download rt.jar file, there are bunch of built-in classes. So in those built-in classes, exceptions, certain section of exceptions has been already defined. All kind of exceptions has been defined by Java. All you need to know how to use them. You need to know what kind of error you're expecting, so that you can take care. So if you look at this program, so we can say whenever somebody is doing this operation, you can say, okay, there is some kind of math related problems may come if somebody try to what you call enter 0. But if you see like this, right, if somebody says like this, you don't need to worry about it, because it never gives you an error, right? But if you try this, there is a chances somebody going to enter. If somebody enters 0, somehow I need to communicate, somehow I need to handle, and then continue the program. Let's say result, and then I need to say system dot, sorry, I'm trying to answer your question as well here. Try to see. Now after results, continuing. See, ideally what should happen? If something happens, you should catch that exception. I mean, if something happens, in this case, if you run this program again, let me show you again. 10, 0. So program has been terminated here. Ideally, the program should start from here to end here, up to here, right? But as soon as this runtime exception happened, the program terminated here and then here itself, right? Instead of that, what your end goal is, okay, if something wrong, okay, let's try to do something, you understand that is something wrong, and handle that properly and continue the program. So that is important, right? Let's say in there you are writing like a different business logics on a day-to-day progress, right? So in those things, If something wrong happens, you can live with that. Let's say there is certain logics, even if it fails, you can continue the program. There are certain scenarios you come across, like even if it fails, you need to continue the program rather than terminating the program. Okay, so in those scenarios, I mean, in simple way, like when you entered, when the user entered in Bank of America, when the user entered wrong data, instead of if something happens, so instead of entering numbers, if you enter string, instead of logging him out, what you need to do, you need to handle that properly and communicate to him and give him another chance, right? That's what we do. Show him there's something wrong entered, so go and fix the problem so that I can continue processing your request. So you need to continue that rather than logging him out and asking, oh, log in again, right? So your program should continue rather than terminating. So these exceptions, runtime exceptions. Okay, so how can we handle this kind of scenarios? Let me show you. Let me say, how to handle, I need to use start using keywords, try, catch, finally. Yeah, I'll explain. Let me write a program and then I'll try to, what I'm going to do, see. Okay, don't worry about what is try, what is catch, I'll explain. Same logic we'll do here. Okay, scanner equal to new scanner system dot let me copy that guy. I'll see you sometime. And just copy all the logic here. So what I did, I just copy pasted all the logic and I kept a couple of keywords like try, catch, and then I'll say I'll keep this line outside. Okay. So what I will do, Boolean, I'll take one Boolean to monitor what exactly happened. 0 equal to true. It's not required when we enforce user, right? For now, not required this one. So let me run this program again. Enter a value. I'm entering 10. I'm entering, let's see, directly 0. Did you got that same error that you got here? So here what will happen? Okay, so Good. So if you run this program, so 10, this is the old program. So you got an error. Okay, instead of this, you handle this like, okay, you got arithmetic exception. Here you are saying what you're doing. If something happens, and convey what happened to the user, and then continue the program, instead of stopping it. Here what exactly happened in the previous program? Once the exception happened, it completely terminates the program there and then itself. But if you handle it, then it will continue the program whatever the way you want. So what you did here, you are handling it. How you are handling it? You are using certain keywords that has been given by Java called try, catch, finally, um, throws, throw. These are the 5 keywords how to handle in order to handle. Okay, let me read it out these messages. There are 2 type of problems: exceptions which can be handled, like I mentioned, right? Errors which cannot be handled. All exceptions in Java are classes. There is no interfaces. All exceptions are subclasses of java.lang.exception. All exceptions are subclasses of java.lang.exception. That's what I showed you, right? If you observe here, all kind of exceptions are subclass of exception. This is the hierarchy of superclass. Object is superclass. Next one is throwable extending object. Exception is extending throwable, and class not found class is extending exception. So all exception class, that's what I mean. All exception classes are what you called subclasses of java.lang.exception. In all exception classes, there will be only constructors. You don't see any methods. Let me show you that. Yeah, you can go back and look at it. Let's not waste too much time. In all exception classes, there will be only constructors. I mean, you don't see any methods around all these things. Only all the methods are available in throwable. So if the methods are available in superclass, subclasses can access, right? So same concept here. They are all. So that's the reason I'm keep telling that overloading and overriding inheritance concepts are so important. Okay. In exception classes, there will be only constructors. We don't have any methods. All exception subclasses are using superclass throwable methods like get message, print stack trace. Okay, something I'll show you to what it's. So how do you handle the exceptions? We keep saying like exceptions can be handled, right? Errors cannot be, right? So how can we handle the exceptions? Using certain keywords that has been provided by Java. Those are try, catch, finally, throws. What will happen when you try, catch, finally, throws, right? The moment you keep the statements in try block, whatever the business logic that you keep in this block, these are try block, static block. You remember, if it started with curly braces next to the keyword, then it is called block. So try block. So whatever the business logic you keep here, the moment you keep it inside try block, the JVM starts monitoring. Okay, so whoever the developer, he started using try block because he is anticipating some exceptions. And is conveying that exception. Here is where you just use like exception. So when you use exception, right, all kind of exceptions fall into superclass of exception class, right? So if you go to java.lang.arithmetic exception, right, so just now I opened this page. If you go to runtime exception, come on idiot. Yeah, so runtime exception superclass is exception class, and arithmetic, right? See, let me go into this. Arithmetic exceptions superclass is runtime exceptions. Runtime exception superclass is exception. So you are saying some kind of exception. You are saying here, instead of saying arithmetic exception, some you expected some exception. You don't know what kind of exception. That's the reason you used exception class. So any kind of exceptions, like whatever happens, like these kind of all these runtime exceptions, all these runtime exceptions will be handled now. Not only arithmetic exception, even if you do some blah 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 array index out of bound also, it will be handled here. Okay, if you use superclass exception, it will be handled every kind of exceptions that will occur. But in general, what is the norms? You need to specify what kind of exceptions you can and you are anticipating. You need to specify what kind of exceptions you are anticipating. Let's go details into that later. So basically, you need to use try, catch, finally, throw, throws. These are the 5 keywords that we can use to handle the exceptions. Okay. So let's go to some theory statements so that we'll go back to the problem. Try block is used to place the statements need to be monitored in case of abnormal behavior, right? Then catch block is used to catch the exception raised by the try block. So if something happened, what it will do? If something happened in this block, try what it will do? It will raise that exception, and catch what it's supposed to do? It need to catch that exception here. Okay, don't get confused. These are keywords. That's it. It's simple program happening again. So catch block, when whatever you wrote inside catch block is the kind of message that you want to convey, kind of message that you want to log. Catch block is used to catch the exceptions raised by the try block. Catch should followed by try. So you can't simply write catch as and when you want. Whenever you are writing catch, there should be corresponding try block. There should be corresponding try block. Okay, and other statements are not allowed in between try and catch. I mean, I just quickly show. So if I write something here, right, like it will throw an error. So syntax error token catch expected, something it doesn't understand. So always, like try and catch should go next to each other. So for one try block, we can write more than one catch block. For one try block, we can write more than one catch block. Let me quickly show it to you, that scenario. What does it mean? Yeah, right. THE shit. Okay, let me do another one. Okay, let me try to do here. I'm just taking some array. Shit. I quickly give me 1 second. Holy cow. Sorry. I'm doing blunder. I need to convey an array of type int. Sorry. Okay. So I'm just taking an array of type int arry of 0. I'm just keeping 11. Arry of 1. I'm keeping 12. And I'm taking one more, which I suppose not to. Just to show you the exception. Okay, so in this business logic, let's assume this is our business logic. In this business logic, we anticipated two different errors. One is arithmetic exception. Okay, one is this is where you expected an arithmetic exception happen if user entered some wrong value in B. This is something array index out of bound exception, where if you enter more than what the size supposed to be, right? So if you use simply exception instead of these two blocks, let's say instead of writing that, if you write like this, right? So let me show it to you. Enter 10 and 0. Enter a non-zero value after results continuing. So it's good. Now let me run again. Enter 12, enter 2. Oh God. So results 5. So it executed properly, but it still entered into the exception block. You're trying to understand? It still entered into the exception block because you are trying to insert into. Can you guys able to hear me? Can one of you confirm? అరే వీడియో పెట్టుకున్నారా కింద ఆమె పెట్టిందా టీవీ Hey guys, can you able to hear me? Okay. Yeah, because somehow audio got disconnected. Thanks. So here, right, even though it's not because of arithmetic exception, it's because of array index out of bound exception, you enter a non-zero value. So you cannot communicate multiple errors in multiple exception scenarios that occur in your business logic. That's the reason you need to make sure you use different kind of exceptions so that you can communicate different errors in this. Let's see now what will happen, right? Let me yeah. What is this other stuff? Yeah, okay, so let me run this program. Enter a value 10. I'm entering 0 now, so it's giving enter a non-zero value and the business logic is continuing. That's what we displayed. Okay, so you can have as much logic as you want in this highlighted part. Just for the sake of showing it, I just put it there. Okay, next scenario. I entered 10, I entered proper value, result is 5, and then this array index out of bound exception, array overflow size of the array is 2. So I'm conveying to the user, okay, the values entered is more than 2, even though the index is 2, you are trying to put more than 3 values. That is the reason I'm throwing array index out of bound exception. So this kind of that's what this line means, whatever highlighted. For one try, we can write more than one catch block. Okay. So in case of more than one catch block, order of exceptions must be subclass to superclass. Order of exceptions must be subclass to superclass, which means, let's say there may be another error scenario which you are not sure. Let's say there is another error scenario which you are not sure that will happen here in your business logic. You know arithmetic exception will happen, so you wrote arithmetic exception. You know array index out of bound exception happens, so you wrote array index of bound exception. But you don't know there is some other errors may happen. So what you will do that time? So you will write another catch block with generalized exception, right? When you write generalized, something happened. Something wrong happened. We'll look into it. So if you try to write like this sequence, right? If you try to first write the exception and then arithmetic exception and then array index of bound exception, what will happen? So if you get a arithmetic exception, what will happen? Instead of going arithmetic exception block, who is that guy?
We are not able to see your screen.
Oh, okay. How about now?
Yes.
Okay. Nice.
We can able to.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So if you try to write the superclass exception here itself, so let's say arithmetic exception happen, what it will do, try immediately says, okay, I catched the exception, I'm throwing it. Okay, I found exception happened in my block, I am throwing it. So first thing what will happen, exception. So it understand exception will swallow all kind of its subclasses. So it doesn't even go here. So that is the reason the order you need to follow subclass to superclass. So what does it mean? The order should be like this. Make sense? So in this case, what will happen? First, arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception and array index of bound of exceptions are two classes which are independent of each other. Both are extending exception class, runtime exception class. So in this case, what will happen? If arithmetic exception comes, it falls here. If array index of bound exception happens, first it will look, so it is not arithmetic exception. So next it will look for, oh, it's an array index of bound, array index out of bound exception. So it will trigger this line. Let's say if it is not arithmetic exception, if it is not array index out of bound exception, what will happen? It will fall into exception block. You got my point? So only one block will be executed. Remember, only one catch block will be executed. Anytime only one catch block. If this block executed, it comes out. It doesn't execute these remaining catch blocks. So it handled there and then itself. So anytime only one block will be executed, and the order of the exceptions when you are defining, you need to follow. For in case of more than one catch block, order of exceptions must be subclass to superclass. Okay. Then there is another concept called finally. Finally block is used for the statements which need to be executed irrespective of the exceptions occurred in try block. So let's say we kind of understand by writing these catch blocks, if something goes wrong, these catch blocks will handle and continue the statement, right? Continue the whatever you business logic that you wrote. Let's say I wrote one line, something like I just kept it this line. Okay, what does it mean? System dot exit of 0 is nothing but when the execution starts in the public static void main, it starts executing. The moment it sees this program, it is saying get out from the program. It's as good as get out from the program. Okay, so I should not use this. I'll explain later. So for now, forget about it. So basically what happens, right? No matter what, okay, no matter whatever happens here, you don't care. No matter whatever the business logic happens, but you want to execute certain logic. Okay, anything, we don't care. Whatever happens, let it happen. Okay, whatever happens, let it happen here. So if something happens, if in whatever happens in try catch block, you don't care if you want to execute certain statements. Okay, irrespective of the output of your try catch block, irrespective of the output of the try catch block, if you want to execute certain statements at the end of your logic, then use finally. I'll try to explain one more time. Okay, so finally, what is Hey, sorry guys, something wrong with my video and audio. Something, my internet is like um, not working on me. So let me try to finish finally, and then we can stop and see. So basically what I did, I used another block called finally. What does it mean? You don't care whatever happen. You don't care whatever happens in try catch block, but you still want to execute certain statements. Then keep those statements in finally block. Keep those statements in finally block. Let's say simple scenario. I'll tell you. You are connecting to the database from your Java code. So what does it mean? You are making a network call, right? So each time you open the connection in your business logic, let's say in this logic, you opened the connection, database connection, you execute the program. And if you're trying to close the program here itself, you're trying to close the connection here itself. So in try block, what you did, open the connection, execute your database queries and close the connection. This is what you wrote in try block. So what happened is, like, it opened the connection. It is while executing your SQL statements, something went wrong. So when something went wrong, what happens? It doesn't continue in the try block, right? So closing of the connection will be never, closing of the connection line will never execute. So next connection comes. So connections are keep opening, but they never get closed because of something wrong in between the business logic. In those cases, what will happen? The connections will be lost. Like, the database connections may be around 200 or 300 connections will be there at a time. So if you reach the connections, then your program will terminate. So instead of that, irrespective of execution of your program, if you want to execute your closing statement, you want to connection, if something goes wrong here, you don't care, you want to close connection at the end of your execution of program. So you know that you are opening the connection, you know that you are writing some SQL queries connecting to the database and executing them, but you want to close the connection no matter what. So in those cases, keep those kind of statements, those kind of closing connections kind of scenarios in finally block, so that it will execute all the time. Okay, so let me show you, let me run this program quickly. Enter value 10 0. So entered a non-zero, it entered into the entered into a catch block, and then I am inside finally block executed, and after results continuing also executed. After results continuing also executed. So finally uses is, if you want to execute something which you want to execute no matter what happens in try and catch blocks. Make sense? Okay, cool. What else is there? Is another important pieces. Yeah, these things, let's finish it out. Throws and user defined and throw we can discuss tomorrow class. So this is the way, when you write a try catch block, there are some conditions, like, how do you write it? So when you write a try block, there must be either catch or finally. There must be either catch or finally immediately. Okay, so try catch should be there, or try finally should be there. Okay, combinations, or else try catch finally also there. The combination is allowed. Try catch finally combination allowed. Try catch catch, as many catches you can write, you can allowed, or else try and finally is allowed, or try catch is allowed. These are the 4 different kind of scenarios. So if you try to write like this, right, try, this block is not allowed. Like, let me create block try finally, this is allowed. But if you try to write here, I didn't see your question, give me a second. This is not allowed. Always catch. If you are using catch, catch should be immediately. Then finally, if you are not using catch, that is allowed. This is allowed. This is allowed. This is allowed, as many exceptions, because it's just showing Artham. You can write like yeah, I showed you, right, as many catches you can write. So that is allowed. Okay, so these are the combinations allowed. You can't just twist the rules. You need to follow that rules. Okay. So there is only one finally is allowed for each try block. That is also important. So number of, you can write as many catches as you want, but only one finally is allowed for each try block. When you have statements like system.exit of 0 in try block, then finally will not be executed. There are, so in interview questions, a lot of times they will ask, like, the basic ways, like, if somebody who want to see the basic knowledge, they will ask these questions. So what is finally, they will ask. So you can say, like, irrespective of the result of the try block or catch block, if you want to execute certain statements, then you go for finally. Then you will say, so finally will execute all the time? Not really. There are certain scenarios, like where when you write system.exit of 0 in your try block, then when you write now your this line is executed, right? I am inside finally is executed, right? So let's say if I write here system dot exit of 0 is terminate. Okay, nothing will happen. So program terminated. As soon as this line executed, it doesn't care, nothing cares, it doesn't look for anything, it just comes out from the program. That is one scenario. Another scenario is, let's say, for, I believe this one happened. Yeah, when you use this guy, right, when you write a for loop with like just it's like an infinite loop kind of thing. So these kind of things, scenarios, this line won't execute. So nowadays they even ask, like, if you answer system.exit of 0 is the only scenario. No, there are certain scenarios, like, even if you write a for loop without any conditionals, so conditions never satisfy, so it keep running, so your finally block is never going to execute. So there are these scenarios which will exit. When you are running a thread interrupted while executing try or catch statements by killing the thread, then finally won't be executed. This is one scenario. Okay, when try block goes into infinite loop, then finally won't be executed. That's what I showed you for loop, right? Yeah. I supposed to send an assignment, I didn't. I know, it's my fault. I'll do it today. I'll send the full core Java document as well. Try to see if you can understand what is there. Tomorrow we'll discuss throws and user-defined exceptions and kick off our collections package. Okay. Thank you, guys. Let me see your question. Give me a second. Can we write try finally catch? Oh, that is not allowed. I just told you, right? Yeah, that combination is not allowed. Yep. Thank you, guys.